Okay, this video is going to cover graphing inequalities on a number line. Remember, you graph inequalities, you're trying to find the values that make the inequality unequal values. So there's going to be more than just one because we're finding not values that make it equal, or we're finding values that also make it unequal, so unequal values. So first step, what we're going to do is we're going to take this inequality and we're going to graph it on a number line. So I have 2 minus 8, and I've got to use x because we're going to use an x and y plane. X is less than 12 minus 3x. Let's go ahead and now look at the graph to determine what the critical value is. So I'm going to go back to default zoom, and you can see here we've got a shaded portion and a non-shaded portion. The critical value is going to be where the dot is. So the dot is on -2, so that's our critical value here. So we've got x and -2. Then we've got to figure out, step 3, which values are shaded. So let's go back to the graph. It looks like the values that are on the right side of -2 are shaded. So these are the values that are greater than. You can see 0, 2, all of these values to the right are the solution set, or the values in the solution. And these are all values that are greater than or bigger than -2. So let's go back to our example. So we have all values that are greater than -2. So any value that's greater than -2. And then the last part is the critical value included? So is -2 part of our solution, or is it just the critical value? Well, the way that we determine whether or not it's part is based on the inequality sign at the beginning. You can see here that the inequality sign is not equal to. There was not a line under. So for example, this is less than versus less than or equal to. This line right here means that the value is included, so it means we need a closed dot. This one doesn't have an equal to, so at -2 we'd have an open dot, and our values that are greater than -2 are these values this way. You can see that the graph is the same over here. We've got the values at -2 and then all the values to the right. Now let's just put in this again and see what it looks like if it wasn't equal to. So if I put an equal to, now you can see that there's the equal to sign. So what's the difference on the graph? Well, you can see here that this line at -2 is solid, versus when it's not an equal to, it's a dashed line. So that's another way of being able to determine that. So again, just put it in red. Our critical value is -2, and our solutions are everything that's greater than -2. But not including -2 itself. Okay, here we have the inequality. -3x is less than or equal to 18. If we're solving with algebra, we would divide both sides by -3, and then because we divided by negative, we would flip the sign, because that's the rule with inequalities, and we get x is less than or equal to -6. So that's with solving with algebra, and we know that x is less than -6. B would be our solution. But let's see what it looks like when we put it in the graphing calculator. So -3x is greater than, this one has the line under. You can see that this one has the line under. This is an equal to, so after I put in the greater than, I just type in the equal button, and it puts in that line 18. So you can see here, if we're graphing this, we go to a critical point. Our critical point is -6, so x and -6, and our solution set. So all these values that are to the left of -6 are values that are less than -6, so less than -6, so x can be, values that are less than -6. So x is less than -6, and then the line is solid, or we have a line under, so it's an equal to. So our answer here would be B, because we've got the value at -6, all the values that are smaller than, and then a closed dot because it's an equal to. If it wasn't an equal to, we would have an open dot, so we'd have x is less than -6. These are just giving you an example of what it would be. -6, and then we'd have an open dot and then an arrow pointed that way. But we don't have that. This is what we have, so our answer is B.